Hey everyone, Gil Fried here, the Crowd Management Doctor, and we have stories for May and even some in June of 2025. I hope you learn a lot from these monthly breakdowns of news stories because that's how you keep abreast of the field. Global Crowd Management Alliance, GCMA, has created the present resource to assist journalists, legal professionals, public officials, and other stakeholders to accurately communicate crowd safety information to the public alongside industry professionals. So they did some research, and recent research has shown that the way in which media reports on crowd incidents can influence public understanding and emotional response, shaping societal perceptions and potentially impacting safety measures and preparedness strategies. So let's look at some of the terms that they use because we use it often in these courses as well as these videos. Capacity, maximum number of people a venue can safely accommodate. Comprehensive asphyxia, suffocating from chest compression. Crowd collapse, when the crowd falls to the ground. Crowd control, measures taken to handle a crowd that has become disorderly, unlawful, or violent. I like to say it's the oh bleep 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 moment when it's crowd control. That's when you bring in the horses and the nightsticks and stuff like that. Crowd crush, when people fill a space beyond safe limits where others cannot move or breathe. Crowd density, that's the number of people in a given unit of area. Normally people per square meter or square yard is what they use. Crowd dynamics, study of how crowds form and behave. Crowd flow, the rate at which people move through a space measured people per meter, people per yard per minute. Crowd flow management, strategies to manage the flow of people through a space. Crowd management, the systematic planning for and supervision of the orderly movement and assembly of people. Yep. Crowd manager, a competent person responsible for overseeing crowd behavior, monitoring density and flow, identifying risk, communicating and facilitating evacuations or other emergency procedures. That's who you are. If you're the viewer of this, you are a crowd manager. Crowd monitoring, the continuous observation and management of crowd conditions before, during, and after an event. Crowd safety, proactive measures taken to ensure the safety of individuals in a crowd, including preventing overcrowding and other dangerous situations. Crowd surge, a sudden rapid movement of a large crowd of people, often in a confined space. Egress, the action of leaving a space, exiting a venue. Evacuation, the act of moving individuals away from danger or a hazard. Ingress, the action of going into a venue. So that's the entry process we call ingress. Panic, the natural emotional response when survival is threatened. Panic, oftentimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. Progressive crowd collapse, where a group of people fall onto one another in a chain reaction like dominoes. Risk assessment, the process of identifying potential risk and then applying mitigation strategies to reduce the potential impact of those risks. Show stop, a predefined rapid and coordinated response to an emergency or incident that poses a risk of loss of life or serious injury. Stampede, where a crowd runs away from a real or perceived risk or threat. And the reason why we wanted to cover these terms with you is that words matter. And if you call something a crowd a control effort when it's actually crowd management, it could be sending the wrong image. Danger from above. Fan Ricardo Aquino was treated by medical professionals on the scene at a Los Angeles Dodgers vs. New York Yankees game after a chunk of concrete fell from the stadium and hit him. He did not have any life-threatening injuries, but he was experiencing a good deal of pain from the impact. The Dodgers initially released a statement that read, "We are aware of the report. We cannot comment further until we have all the information which we are currently collecting." That's a good response. Until you know, you can't say what caused it. In the days since the accident, the Dodgers installed a small section of protective netting in the upper deck of Dodger Stadium. The netting covers a few feet of concrete that is visibly cracked and insecure. The Dodgers have confirmed that facility operations are reviewing the safety concerns in the section between home plate and first base. Dodger Stadium is the third oldest stadium in the MLB. It was built in 1962, but is far from the only stadium to experience a structural malfunction. In 1998, a concrete beam fell at Yankee Stadium, and in 2004, some concrete also fell at Wrigley Field. However, Dodger Stadium just completed a $100 million renovation in 2020, leading some fans to question how the concrete could already be in disrepair. This is one of those things that you have to notice things. In the April news stories, we talked about a roof collapse at a nightclub in the Dominican Republic, and people started seeing flecks of stuff fall into their drinks. Same thing. If you notice anything, see anything, you got to respond. Women's soccer game indefinitely paused after fans displayed pro-Palestinian flags. A women's soccer game in Kent, England was indefinitely suspended in late May after fans from both teams displayed pro-Palestinian flags during the game. Clapton Community was facing off against Dulwich Hamlet reserves in the final London and South East Women's Regional Football League at Gallagher Stadium, but after Clapton led the match 2-0, the game was paused. According to BBC, officials requested that fans of both Clapton Community and Dulwich Hamlet Reserve remove the pro-Palestinian flags, but the fans refused. League officials determined that the flags posed a safety risk and defied the stadium regulation. As a result, the game was stopped. Gallagher Stadium issued an announcement over the PA system asking everyone to leave, and a joint protest ensued outside of the grounds involving both Dulwich and Clapton fans. Maidstone United released a statement after the game saying, "Maidstone United is a football club serving the local community. Ensuring a peaceful and safe environment for spectators in the stadium is a priority. The club does not engage in politics of any kind." And I agree with that. If you see this at your venue, you got to make sure you have the rules in place. If there are rules, that's where you can enforce it. And it's not necessarily a First Amendment issue. You can control what goes on in your venue at most situations, especially if it could lead to harm. Maidstone United and Football Association rules do state that flags can be banned if they interfere with the viewing of spectators. The rule also states that spectators cannot act in a way that could be a source of danger, nuisance, or annoyance to others. I encourage you, if you see something like this, address it with your superiors immediately before it gets out of hand. The Southeastern Conference revealed at the end of May its updated policies for field and court storming. Greg Sansky, SEC's commissioner, made the announcement on the final day of the SEC spring meeting in Destin, Florida. According to the new plan, schools that violate the field and court storming policy will be fined $500,000 for each violation. In previous years, the SEC implemented a tiered system of fines and punishment for fans who storm the courts or field. In 2024, the SEC fined an offending school $100,000 for a first offense, with the numbers going to $250,000 and then $500,000 for continued violation. Several SEC schools found themselves facing steep fines in 2024 as students continued to ignore the rules and they ignored the pleas to stop court storming. Vanderbilt University, in particular, racked up $850,000 in fines. When Oklahoma University students stormed the football field after the Sooners defeated Alabama, the school incurred a $200,000 fine and an additional $100,000 charge because the game clock had not reached zero when the students rushed onto the field. Will this make a difference? I hope so. The steep fines will be waived if students do not rush the field until after the visiting team and the game officials have retreated to the locker room. So that is the Band-Aid that they're trying to do is, hey, you can still storm, but wait until everyone gets out so that they're safe. I don't know if that's going to really reduce the risk. Let's see if it does. Championship rioting in France is the next story. More than 500 people were arrested by police during the Champions League final celebration in France at the end of May, and 2 people were reported dead and 192 injured. The Interior Minister said as further festivities were planned. Wild celebrations erupted across the French capital and beyond after Paris Saint-Germain crushed Italian opponent Inter Milan to win the Championship League for the first time. A total of 559 people had been arrested, including 491 in Paris, which led to 320 people being placed in police custody, 254 of them in Paris. There was one fatal accident when a young man in his 20s died in a collision with a vehicle. Police Chief Laurent Nunez told reporters, while in the southwestern city of Dax, a 17-year-old died from stab wounds, French media reported. On the boutique line Champs-Élysées Avenue, bus shelters were smashed and projectiles were hurled at riot police, who fired tear gas and water cannons to push back surging crowds as thousands of supporters who descended on the area. The Interior Ministry on Sunday reported hundreds of fires, including more than 200 vehicles that were burned. Some 22 members of the security force and 7 firefighters were also harmed. Nunez warned that more skirmishes could occur the next day at PSG was this parade down the Champs-Élysées before celebrating the title with their fans at the Parc des Princes Stadium. Only those attending the parade will be allowed on site. A maximum attendance of just over 100,000 people has been set. Beyond that, no one will be allowed in. And that's what they said. Question I have is, how will they enforce that? Paris has deployed about 5,400 officers in anticipation of celebrations following the win. And luckily, there was no report afterwards that there were any potential problems. So it was great. Maybe the show of force worked, or the pleas of the government officials that people had died. Let's not die. Katy Perry reacts as fans storm stage during concert. What the hell is going on? A fan really didn't want to go after storming the stage during a recent Katy Perry concert when Perry was performing her hit song Hot and Cold at the Kudos Bank Arena in Sydney, Australia. A fan rushed onto the stage to dance next to her. The singer appeared visibly shocked in a fan video posted to social media as a man put his arms around her and began jumping up and down. After freezing for a second, Perry spun around to create distance from the man as she kept singing the lyrics to Hot and Cold. The stagecrasher then began to perform the floss dance move before security rushed on stage to escort him off. As the man resisted, Perry said into a microphone, "Well, there's never going to be another show like this, so just enjoy it, Sydney." She sang a few more lyrics before shouting into the mic, "What the hell is going on?" We're seeing more and more incidences of people being stupid, if we want to use that term. Why do they need to be part of the show? They don't need to be. It's that thing that we have to really figure out from the managerial perspective of what can be done to try to minimize these kind of issues, because there's no reason at all that fans should go on stage. Fans should also not be throwing their phones or other items at people that are on stage. We're seeing more and more of this reprehensible actions by fans, and they want to have their moment in the sun. They want to be part of the action. They think they are part of the event, and they want to be part of the event. We have to be as meticulous as possible in identifying potential issues. If you see something like someone starting to take off their clothes because they're going to want to try to streak across the stage or the field or something else like that, you have a responsibility to call that in. While you do have people often in a command center who might be monitoring what's going on, they can't see everything. You are the eyes and the ears. You need to be proactive and communicate with those around you. Let them know that you are watching them, that you are there to help them out and to help make sure that the event is as safe as possible for everyone. And if you do that in a proactive manner, you're more than likely to get a positive response from the fans. That's it for the May and June stories that are out there. I encourage everyone to have a great summertime, but most importantly, a safe summer. Take care, everyone. Bye.